Oh, the Comic-Con flood has started. So word, news, trailers, stuff has started flooding out of Comic-Con as it always does. I don't know how many videos I'm gonna make about stuff coming out of Comic-Con. I'm gonna try and keep it to as few as I possibly can because I want whatever videos I make to be made pretty quickly and turned around and put available, and I don't want to flood you guys with like 3 videos in a day. I don't want to do that to you. I don't think anybody needs that much of me. But I also don't have the subscriber base yet to have the thing, oh, well, they'll wait for my opinion. They'll wait 3-4 days. I mean, the channel's growing nicely. Appreciate it, but I'm not there yet. Anyways, that's enough preamble. Let's start by talking about DC and what they've got going. Now, there might be additional DC announcements that are happening as I record this, but for right now, we've got some word on some titles, some confirmed projects, and a new Justice League trailer. So why don't we start with that? I don't hate it, which that might sound like you know, a backhanded compliment, but for me, if you've seen my reaction to the first trailer, that's a big step up. There's not a ton that I love about it. There's a lot of things that I'm like, oh, that's nice about it. And there are way fewer things that I'm like, oh, I hate that. So on balance, a much better trailer, unquestionably. And it's very obvious that at this point, Warner Brothers marketing, if not Warner Brothers as a whole as an organization, seems to have a better understanding about where the goodwill still remains for their properties. Because, I mean, it opens with what looks like a heist, which, I mean, you can't help but think of the opening to The Dark Knight a little bit. And then we start with Wonder Woman, who is the hero in the best standing in the public eye right now. So we get plenty of her. That's not a huge shock. They kind of want to ride her momentum and hope that it continues to build additional anticipation for a movie that I think more audiences were skeptical about than a lot of people want to admit. But that's a smart thing to do. Bank on the one who is, everyone's like, yeah, that was great. Bank on her. That's a smart thing. And like, to the point that actually show Themyscira looks like Steppenwolf's actually stealing something from the Amazons. And we get kind of our first, well, not really first glimpse, because he had his deleted scene in BVS. But we get, you know, some additional looks for him. Can I just call right now? They're not going to call him by the actual character name, because audiences are going to laugh if somebody actually says Steppenwolf and is expected to take this guy seriously. But we get little bits of him. We get little bits of what I assume is his voice. And that actually laid out what I think was a really interesting angle, and one I hadn't thought about it, and one that also kind of elevates my hope, or I didn't have hope, but like builds a little interest in the premise on this. Because what we knew about this film coming in was that it was basically gonna be a MacGuffin hunt, which I don't want to accuse DC of ripping off Marvel because they've been doing their own thing. I don't think it's been working, but they have been doing their own thing. But, you know, the MacGuffin hunt has kind of been Marvel's thing with the Infinity Stones, and a lot of the premise of this thing felt like it was going to be the same thing with the Mother Box here. But there's a wrinkle that they've added which helps. And you get that from Steppenwolf's voiceover, where he says, there's no Guardians here, no Lanterns, and no Kryptonian. So I like the idea that he's coming now, having watched and observed the Earth, and is thinking, now is when they're weak. I like that because it immediately puts the heroes on a proper defensive, because there's something to me, I get really taken in by a villain who truly does not consider the heroes to be a threat. Like, not even like, oh, I didn't know they were, like, he's fully aware that they're here. He just doesn't care. He doesn't think they have a chance. I like that in a villain. So that is a nice angle. I'm enjoying that. There's more bits of humor in this, and more bits of humor that, at least for me, worked. They felt less crowbarred in. They felt less cringy, except for the closing joke. That one, I mean, you know, kind of a cute observation, but that one felt a little cringy. But some other ones, like when Flash has his line, like, I'm not ready for battle. I just put push people and run away. Like, I actually kind of really love that as an assessment of Flash's power set. And if they're making him the young one in the group, I like how trepidatious he is. And I also like that kind of moment where Wonder Woman's sword is falling, she jumps after it, and he comes around and basically just kind of holds the tip with his finger, meaning he stops it falling so she'll catch up to it. I like the idea that Flash doesn't even necessarily to learn how to fight, like in a punching people sense, but just learns how to use his powers to, in a fairly, you know, non-confrontational way, but that will still help. I love Alfred. Jeremy Irons has a great sense of dry wit in this that I'm really looking forward to getting some more of. There was not nearly as much CGI overload in this one as there was in the first trailer. There are still bits of it though, like the Aquaman like slamming the guy through the building and then jumping out the rubble and the whole sky's red. I'm like, that's a lot of CGI. So it's still there, but at least as far as the trailer goes, they didn't load the trailer with all the excessive CGI stuff, which I think was a smart thing to do. Aquaman, still not sold on him. I was kind of getting there. I'm like, maybe this could work. And then he said, oh yeah, or something. And I was like, nope, nope. And there was another thing that I think was interesting in terms of the voiceover talking about Superman. It seems like they are going to act going forward as if Superman had been portrayed the way a lot of people said they wished he was, as opposed to the way he actually was, because there's all this talk about how Superman was a beacon of hope and he brought the best out of people. And I'm just thinking back, like, that's how I think of Superman in the comics when he's written well. I'm thinking back to Man of Steel and especially BVS. Not the words I would have used to describe him, but there's something I kind of appreciate the audacity of basically going, look, we're just gonna act like we did it right previously. Let's just go on that assumption and move forward. And then they kind of hint at Superman's return at the end, between Alfred, you know, seeing somebody we don't see and saying all in, you know, implying that somebody who he hadn't seen is now joining. And I mean, that's not a shock, but I mean, it's kind of fun for people who aren't like me, and I assume most of my viewers who know for certain that Superman is coming back because we follow all the marketing material and everything else. So we already know, and we have known for a while, but maybe for general audiences, they don't already know. So that's a fun hint, and they might get them thinking a little bit more. So, you know, not horribly handled. I have a suspicion that there's probably gonna be some people doing reactions to this that are gonna try and break down what is inserted by Joss Whedon and what is remaining from Snyder. I don't want to play that game. I want to go in and try and experience the movie as a thing unto itself and not parse out, oh, well, that's from this, that's from this, that's from this. I want to try and take it as a whole, and as a result, I'm not going to do anything like that. But I suspect there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be pointing to the humor and calling it Whedon-esque or whatever. I mean, for all we know, those jokes were already in there, and unless Warner Brothers releases a breakdown of exactly what was reshot and what was handled under Whedon, we're not going to know, and they're not going to do that. So I think that's a pointless exercise. But so far, the blend seems to be going better than I would have thought. I'm still not turned around. I'm still not at a point where I'm going, and I'm definitely gonna see it, but you know what? Better is better, and this trailer is better than the last one, and it sells an angle that is more interesting to me than, you know, honestly, I couldn't have told you anything about what the story was from that first trailer, so that wasn't, I don't really know what that one was selling me. This starts selling me on a story and a setup and a world that, while I'm not enthusiastic about, I'm also not going, oh, that's awful. So, baby steps, improvement. Marked improvement from the last one. Look, guys, I'll be blunt. Some people are going to call this spiteful, the fact that I'm still going, I'm not sure if I'm going to see it. I don't want to get my hopes up and suffer again. That's what I don't want. So, you know what? You can call me bitter, you can call me a Marvel fanboy, but a big chunk of my trepidation for this is I am genuinely afraid to get my hopes up because I'm afraid of going in and getting exactly of what I was afraid I was gonna get the last time I talked about this movie. So let's talk about the other little bits, because they've announced a few pieces of information in terms of later films. They've confirmed the Wonder Woman sequel, they've reconfirmed that Green Lantern Corps is happening, you know, Suicide Squad stuff, and some things related to that. I think the one a lot of people are going to focus on, though, is the title for the Flash film, Flashpoint. I know I said in previous videos, oh, they should just do Flashpoint and use it to fix their universe. I didn't think Warner Brothers would actually do it. And to be fair, they might not. But given that they have said outright they are trying to re-examine and retool the approach that they've had to these movies and these characters, the fact that Zack Snyder, who had been a massive creative guiding force, is now gone from the thing, and it is now looking increasingly like Ben Affleck might not stick around even for his own solo Batman movie for whatever reason. Like, if they're gonna retool it, that's a great way to do it without having to reboot everything. I mean, that's using Flash's movie to do the Flashpoint story to be able to account for things like recasting Batman or retconning pieces of the history that they set up but don't want to deal with anymore. It's not an awful idea. If they do actually do that, and if they're not using Flashpoint as a way to actually retool this universe, I hope they realize that that's what everyone is going to be expecting them to do. So I hope they realize what they got into by naming it that, if that's not what they're doing. But I'm going to assume it's what they're doing. So I just hope that they understand going in that what the movie can't be is nothing but a retool job. They're still going to have to tell a story in the heart of the thing itself. And honestly, with Barry appearing as young and having had as few adventures as we'll have seen, I think they have the chance to do Flashpoint type material better than the TV show did it, because by the time the TV show did the whole, Barry saves his mother and causes a mess thing, that thing had already been going for a couple of seasons, and by the time he did that, it was like, Barry, you should know better. So if we do that story again with a younger Barry who hasn't been doing as much, who does not know better, the story might actually work this time in terms of adaptation, because the original story works pretty well for what it was. It was hard to get invested in because you knew it was going to be temporary and everything was going to be reset for New 52. But as a self-contained story, it was pretty good, and there's enough to be mined there. And I think they could actually do some interesting things in terms of giving us an alternate reality for what we've already seen. Basically, the cynical part in me says they can basically go, oh, you thought we did it bad before? Look how much worse we could have done it. Okay, now here we fixed it. And that's a very cynical way to put it. But I'll be interested to see how much darker the world can get for Flashpoint, and then what changes get implemented. And I think the obvious one would be to take that opportunity to recast Batman, because you'll have the excuse for things are just different now. So we will see. We'll see what goes on with all of this. I am in a better place with DC than I've been in a while, because honestly, since my very angry rant, like back in, I don't know, March, since I did that, most of what has come out of DC has been decent to inoffensive. Couple of tiny exceptions, but it's not stuff I exceptionally care about. It seems like overall they are getting much more cautious, because they really went into this DCEU thing off the back of Man of Steel like a bull in a china shop. They were just, we're gonna charge ahead no matter what. And I think they have realized that might not have been the way to go about it. So I think they're being much more measured in their approach to what projects they're doing and how they're doing them than they were previously. And that is all good stuff. There may even come the day when I genuinely enjoy DC movies again. That would be very nice. So those are my thoughts on the Justice League trailer and the announcements in terms of future films, specifically focusing on Flashpoint. What are your thoughts on this? Are you keeping track of what's coming out of Comic-Con? Are you just keeping your head down till the weekend's over so you can deal with it later? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.